You know, there's something nobody talks about in spiritual circles. Something everyone feels but pretends they don't. You've meditated for years. You've read the books. You've had those moments. You know the ones where everything suddenly made sense, where you felt connected to something vast and infinite, where the ego dissolved and you touched the eternal. And then one morning you wake up and feel it. That pull, that ancient magnetism, that heat rising in your blood, lust, raw, undeniable, insistent, and you think, wait, what happened? I thought I was done with all this. I thought awakening meant I'd be above these things. But here's what's really happening, and this is crucial. The desire never left. It was always there. What's changed is that now you're aware of it. Fully, completely, achingly aware. And that awareness, my friend, is precisely what makes it so intense. Let's talk about something simple. Why have spiritual traditions across the world been so afraid of sexual pleasure? Think about it. When people talk about living a spiritual life, what's the first thing that comes up? Usually, it's about renouncing desire, especially sexual desire. Now, this isn't just one tradition. You find it everywhere. East, west, north, south, different cultures, different times, same message. If you want to reach the heights of spiritual attainment, you've got to leave sex behind. But why? Why single out sexual pleasure from all other pleasures? Why not be equally concerned about the pleasure of eating good food, or listening to beautiful music, or watching a sunset? Here's the thing, sexuality represents our deepest connection to the physical world. Through sex and through eating, we become most intimately involved with matter, with bodies, with flesh, with mortality itself. And spiritual traditions have always been suspicious of the physical world, not because it's evil necessarily, but because it's impermanent. It falls apart. Bodies that are young and beautiful today will age and wither. Everything material is constantly dissolving. So the fear is this: if you attach your heart to something that's crumbling, you're going to suffer. Better to set your heart on the eternal, the unchanging, the spiritual. Better to detach from the body entirely. But here's where it gets interesting. Sexuality is something you simply cannot get rid of. You can fast and reduce your relationship to food. You can give away your possessions and live simply. But sexuality, it's woven into the fabric of your existence. You exist because of it. Every cell in your body carries that memory. So what happens when you tell people that this fundamental aspect of their being is dangerous, dirty, wrong? There's an old principle here, and it's utterly reliable. The best way to make something irresistibly interesting is to forbid it. Tell someone they can't have something, and suddenly that's all they can think about. Prune a hedge, and it grows back thicker. Repress a desire, and it sends roots deep into the unconscious, feeding on the darkness you've given it. For centuries, spiritual traditions haven't eliminated sexuality. They've made it psychologically dominant. They've turned natural desire into something shadowy, exciting, and guilt-ridden all at once. The taboo doesn't destroy the desire, it amplifies it. Now here's what most people don't understand about spiritual awakening. There's this fantasy that goes something like this. One day, after years of practice, there's a breakthrough. The clouds part, light floods in, and from that moment forward, you're serene, detached, beyond it all. Desire falls away like autumn leaves. You become essentially perfect, calm, pure, untouchable. But that's not what happens. Not even close. What actually happens is this: you become more sensitive, not less, more. Awakening doesn't subtract your humanity. It doesn't delete your instincts. What it does is turn up the lights. Suddenly you can see everything, the beautiful and the uncomfortable, the transcendent and the awkward, the spiritual and the sexual. Before awakening, desire runs on autopilot. It's in the background, unconscious, automatic. You feel attraction and you react without really noticing the process. It's mechanical. But after awakening, the whole mechanism becomes visible, crystal clear. You see the desire arise, You feel it spread through your body like heat through water. You notice every thought that follows, the fantasies, the justifications, the guilt, the excitement. It's all there, completely exposed in the light of awareness. And this is the shock that nobody prepares you for. It doesn't go away. If anything, it feels more intense, because you're no longer half asleep to it. Imagine you've been living in a dimly lit house for years. You know your way around, but you can't see the details. Then one day, someone installs brilliant lights in every room. Suddenly you can see everything. All the dust you never noticed. All the cracks in the walls. All the clutter in the corners. The dust was always there. But now you see it. That's what happens with lust after awakening. It was always present, humming along in the background. But now you're awake to it, fully awake. And that can feel overwhelming, even frightening. People say to me all the time, I thought awakening would make me pure. I thought I'd transcend all this physical stuff. Why do I still feel desire? Why is it even stronger now? And I tell them, because you're awake. And the awake person feels everything more deeply. Think about it. When you wake up from literal sleep, what happens? Your senses come alive. You hear sounds more clearly. You feel the temperature of the air on your skin. You taste your coffee more fully. Spiritual awakening is the same. It's not about becoming numb. It's about becoming alive, truly, radically alive. And that means feeling everything, including desire, with an intensity you never experienced when you were sleepwalking through life. This is not a failure. This is not a sign you've done something wrong or that your awakening wasn't real. This is simply what it means to be a conscious human being. The struggle isn't because you're broken. The struggle is because you're awake. Let's sit with something difficult for a moment. Every body you've ever desired will eventually decay. That face will wrinkle. That skin will sag. Those eyes will dim. The form you long to touch today will in time become dust. If you could speed up time and watch the whole process in a few seconds, you'd see flesh melt away like snow in spring sunshine. This is the ancient fear at the heart of all spiritual teaching about desire. Don't get attached to what's impermanent. Don't build your happiness on a foundation that's already crumbling. Don't set your heart on beauty that's fading, even as you reach for it. And there's truth in that, isn't there? If your entire sense of well-being depends on physical appearance, yours or someone else's, you're setting yourself up for suffering, because change is the only constant. But here's what I want you to consider. Does impermanence make something less valuable, or does it make it more precious? Think about cherry blossoms. In Japan, people gather by the thousands to watch them bloom. Why? Because they only last a week or two. Then the petals fall, and they're gone for another year. If cherry blossoms bloomed year-round, nobody would write poems about them. Nobody would travel to see them. The beauty lies in the brevity. The same is true of bodies. The same is true of moments. The same is true of everything in this physical world. Things are beautiful because they don't last. Because they're here now, in this moment, alive and breathing and real, and then, like everything else, they transform into something else. The awakened person sees both truths simultaneously. They see the beauty and they see the impermanence. And this creates a kind of bittersweet recognition, a tender grief mixed with profound appreciation. It's like watching a sunset. You know it's going to end. You know in 10 minutes it'll be dark. But that doesn't diminish the beauty. It intensifies it. You watch more carefully because you know it won't last. But there's another layer here that's even deeper. The body isn't just a temporary shell. It's also an expression, a creative, playful, utterly unique expression of the intelligence that animates everything. You are not just a body, true, but you're also not separate from your body. The body is the universe wearing a costume. It's consciousness exploring what it's like to have hands and eyes and skin and nerves. When you touch another person, you're not just touching flesh and bone. You're touching the mystery itself, dressed up in human form. So yes, the body is temporary. It changes. it ages, it eventually dissolves, but that doesn't make it trivial. That makes it sacred. The struggle comes from holding both truths at once. The body is fleeting and the body is holy, and somehow living in the space between them without collapsing into either extreme, neither clinging desperately to the temporary nor rejecting it as worthless. Now let's talk about something uncomfortable, something spiritual people really don't like to admit. The way so many seekers pretend they're above all this, you see it constantly. The meditation teacher who only speaks about higher consciousness and never admits to feeling ordinary human desire. The yogi who cultivates an image of perfect serenity while secretly wrestling with intense fantasies. The spiritual leader who preaches detachment while quietly indulging in exactly what they tell their students to renounce. There's a powerful unspoken belief in spiritual communities. Being advanced means being free from desire, and so people create a split within themselves. There's the spiritual self, the one who meditates, speaks softly, radiates peace, reads sacred texts. And then there's the animal self, the one who gets aroused, feels attraction, wants things, and the spiritual self is supposed to be in control. The animal self must be tamed, controlled, transcended, kept on a tight leash. But here's what actually happens. The more you repress something, the more power it has over you. The more you try to rise above desire, the more desire becomes your shadow lurking in the basement of your psyche, growing stronger in the dark. You know about shadows, right? Whatever you refuse to look at doesn't disappear. It just operates outside your awareness, usually in ways that are far more destructive than if you'd simply acknowledged it honestly in the first place. And the struggle becomes unbearable because nobody talks about it. Everyone's afraid to admit they still feel desire, because admitting it would mean